Where does the idea of race come from? When we meet new people, one of the first things we notice about them is their race. But what if I told you the idea of race hasn't always existed? Before 1492, when Columbus arrived in Hispaniola, the notion that people belonged to different races didn't exist. Europeans created racial categories to explain the differences between themselves and the rest of the world. Race is a modern invention. Ancient people didn't divide the world into distinct races. The ancient Ethiopians and Greeks, for example, didn't think of each other as black or white. There wasn't even a word for race in their vocabulary. The rise of science made the idea of race possible. Let me explain. In the 17th century, scientists developed schemas to classify all known flora and fauna. They came up with ideas like species and genus, which we still use today. Then some scientists decided to classify human beings. François Bernier was the first scientist to divide humans into groups. In a 1684 French journal article, Bernier proposed that Europeans, Far Easterners, Negroes, and Lapps were the four primary racial groups. Bernier used physical traits such as skin color and hair texture to categorize people into different groups. In 1735, a Swedish botanist named Carolus Linnaeus proposed that all human beings could be divided into four groups. Linnaeus based these groups on the continents: Americanus, Asiaticus, Africanus, and Europeanus. Native American, Asian, African, and European are the same racial groups we use today. Linnaeus was the first scientist to connect skin color with moral traits. He classified people originally from the Americas not only as reddish, but also as obstinate. It's no surprise Europeans perceived Native Americans as stubborn, given that Europeans were trying to take over their land. And the perception that Africans are indolent was used as a justification for slavery. If Africans were lazy by nature, Europeans could argue their enslavement was necessary. European explanations of white racial superiority quickly reached the Americas. In the New World, European settlers used these racial categories to explain and rationalize the enslavement of Africans and the continued takeover of indigenous lands. Racial categories became after-the-fact justifications for brutal exploitation and mass genocide. These racial categories, Native American, Asian, Black, and white, don't correspond to genetic or biological differences between people. They correspond to an 18th century European worldview. Europeans viewed themselves as superior, Africans as ideal enslaved subjects, Native Americans as a population to be eliminated, and Asians as exotic others. What's remarkable is that these ideas persist today.